for the Shidduch of Sarah Bat Rivka and Gabriel Bat Tanya, Talia Goldwyn, in honor of Shlomo Zalman ben Rivka, Yitzhak Dov, Rachel Yakira, Eitan Lior, and Matan Kaleb B'nai Talia Sarah, anonymous for Shalem of Shora Bat Sarah, anonymous in the honor of Moshe ben Eliyahu, Chaya Bat Rivka, in honor of Eliyahu Abraham Shmuel ben Rivka, for success, Parnasa Zivug, Shmuel ben Chaim, Sima Shendel for Shalom Bayit, Parnasa, and a special thanks to me for guiding her classes, and in memory of Devorah Fega, Bat Shmuel Menachem Mendel ben Elchanan. So God willing, first I want to introduce Miriam Yerushalmi, a very, very dear friend of mine. She is a marriage therapist. She's a marriage therapist, mental health counselor, everything. Spiritual guider, meditation specialist. Before we start the class, I want to just announce the event, God willing, in New York. Next Wednesday night, we'll be here in Manhattan. God willing, we'll be in Manhattan. Phenomenal event in Park East Synagogue. So the reason why I called Miriam Yerushalmi here is because I want to put her on the map, basically. I've used her books many times in the classes, and she's got a phenomenal way of approaching. Thank God that we spent a couple of days together in my detox and rehab this week, so we put her through the grind already. So she's ready for anything. So she's basically, just before we start, the books that she's written this tremendous book called Kindness in Marriage. She combines secular therapy and also spiritual therapy. It's not just one, it's just not just religious. She does a phenomenal job of really combining. If you want to go from Shalom I Had It to Shalom Bayit, this is the book to buy. We all get points in our life where we say, Shalom I Had It. You want to go from Shalom I Had It to Shalom Bayit. This is a phenomenal book. I've used it many times. Excellent book, recommended. Second book I strongly recommend from her is called Heavenly Waters. This is for women. The magic of going to the mikvah. How important it is for a woman to go into the mikvah, how much it renews the marriage. It promotes humility, it promotes newness, it promotes phenomenal book. Read the book also, strongly recommend anybody. Because what happens is sometimes in life, things can become very routine. And when they become routine, we lose the heart, and we lose the newness, and we lose the specialist. And what happens is in life that if you don't do it, if you get comfortable in the beginning of the marriage, usually there won't be an end to the marriage. And I think that's the pattern that we see today. So do what you did in the beginning of the marriage, and there won't be an end to the marriage. But if you don't do what you did in the beginning, we get casual, get comfortable, next thing you know. So the mikvah is a tremendous way to renew everything. So again, phenomenal book that she has written on self-help and guiding step by step on going to the mikvah. I think marriages are up 40%, 50% with people go to the mikvah.
Absolutely. The research is showing it, that it really does prevent divorce.
Right.
Oh yeah, it really does prevent divorce.
Right.
Goyim are really looking into the research, and it's having a profound effect in keeping marriages together.
Right, so that's beautiful. I mean, take the 40% chance with today's generation. Again, it's because there's newness. It's all about renewing the marriage instead of the same, et cetera, et cetera. So strong. And the last one is, can everybody hear? Good? Okay. Prayer and Meditation, another phenomenal book. Her teachings are based a lot on Chabad, where my teachings are more on Breslov, but her teachings are really, really based on Chabad. And she's, again, we're promoting her to work for us, God willing, and she's going to say yes. And she's going to move to Miami soon, God willing. That's my prayers, and that would be wonderful. So she doesn't have too much bechira, so that's the bottom line. Okay, so first I just want to talk about, the reason was we want to talk about a lot of things, so we want to talk about a lot of things quickly, so we don't just stay on one thing forever. I think because the audience is pretty wide, and so let's talk about the first thing: how to deal with stress today in 2020 with coronavirus, with Moroccans, with this, with that. How do we deal with stress in today's generation? What advice did you give the people in recovery today?
Before I say anything, can I just thank you?
Absolutely.
You're a man of doing. I'm just very thankful for everything that you've been doing for all of Am Yisrael.
Amen.
I went to the center there. Everyone raves about how you care. and that they love the place there.
Thank
and
you.
I was just so impressed. It was so touching.
Thank you.
So the mind. The mind is like a 2-year-old that's having a tantrum. The mind is overstressed, overburdened, overburdened, and it just doesn't want anything to do. Just like a 2-year-old that stands there does not want to do anything. No. And that causes a lot of problems because the brain doesn't want new patterns of behavior. It doesn't want to incorporate new ideas of how to resolve problems. So the key in the work that I'm doing is first and foremost to help them understand the dynamic of their brain. And helping the body relax helps the mind relax. Through meditation, through guided imagery, through deep breathing. Then the brain can begin to say, that makes sense. And eventually, in a very short period of time, within a 40-day period of time of doing these kinds of techniques, the mind on its own does what's called neural pruning, just like pruning a garden. Oh, this old weed doesn't work for me. This is good. And so the brain automatically can now incorporate new resolutions, new goals. And the thing about the brain is that you can outwit it. It does not know the difference between past, present, and future. So if you keep every day just 1 minute, there's a Dr. Melrose actually, and she wrote a book, 60-Second Fix. She's been working with people and saw that just in a matter of 40 days, just 1 minute, people were changing. Because the brain is equipped, when it's relaxed, to then have access to its power and potential.
All right. Beautiful. Like I mentioned in today's class, which was one of the famous stories of Rabbi Nachman, of really going from the Dalet to the Hay. The Dalet to the Hay is a mindset. And when a person's thinking a negative thought, we have to first, like we said, people have to recognize that the negative thoughts are coming from their subconscious, which is a Yetzer Hara. And we have to also recognize that we are created with 2 yuds, a Yetzer Tov and a Yetzer Hara. It's not like, you get rewarded for the struggle. It's not like, oh my God, I'm thinking about something that means something's wrong with me. It's normal to wake up with negativity. So the question is what Reb Nachman really talks about is he goes from the Dalet to the Hay. To recognize that you have to constantly, in order to get to a positive mindset, you have to recognize you're in a Dalut mindset. You have to recognize, okay, why am I feeling this way? It's because I'm giving the wrong type of meaning to something. Or why am I feeling this way? That means a negative emotion is really a signal to change. It's not
Right.
to suppress.
Right.
And I think that's where, when you start observing it, like you were saying, that's really the key.
Right,
It's
'cause
observing, not attaching.
Thoughts create emotions. Emotions create reactions or inactions. But the problem is, it's very hard to stop those thoughts. So I term mushy mind syndrome to this problem. Our mind can get to its maximum potential at age 26 and after that, it starts to decline. If you're not actively working on it, just like your body can get weak if you just don't use it and you just lie in bed all day, so too the brain becomes weak when it's not being actively used. There was a researcher, Dr. Sarah Lazar from Harvard University, and she took pictures of the brain for 30 years. Those who prayed, those who meditated, those who learned new languages or learned musical instruments. And over the 30 years, she saw that their brain was defying nature, because naturally, organically, the brain gets smaller. These people, when they did their service of Hashem and other ways of using their brain, the brain was actually getting thicker, stronger, less empty spaces between the grooves of the brain, more cell communication from the brain and the heart, so that the mind would be able to master over the emotions.
Right.
Because the brain has 2 parts, the emotional part, and that's coming from the limbic system, and it works 3 to 4 times faster than the rational part of the mind. So then what happens is you're very emotional. That's by nature. But science does show if you do this type of training, and the Torah teaches all these things,
right,
to pray and to learn and to keep your brain busy, then you can have the rational part of your mind work 3 to 4 times faster than the emotional part of your mind. Right. And then you have more self-mastery.
So I saw this book I saw you had a lot of meditations in this book.
Yes.
And what today the problem is, the way when you say the word sidur, or you say it's very heavy. People today, you have to change the language. Like, God willing, next Wednesday I'm going to do a class on empowerment and being successful in business. But it's really a form of tshuva. But if I say, okay guys, let's do tshuva on Wednesday, nobody's going to show up. But if you say, we need to do a class on empowerment and maximizing profits, which really, if you do tshuva, you're going to maximize profits because you're more in line. But if we say the word tshuva itself, tshuva, nah, it's not for me, I need something new. So today, you have to trick people really into becoming the best of themselves. But you can't use the words tshuva and you can't use the word sidur. You have to use words like affirmations and subconscious healing, because we don't have the mindset today in 2020 to believe something that Hashem did a long time ago, that can change. So we need something new, or it has to be a new time seller. So a lot of the problem is our belief systems today. So yes, if you pray the right way and your heart is there, it is an affirmation. When I say, I trust in God, I have to really physically believe that when I trust in God, mercy comes down to me. I have to believe I can see the mercy coming down to me. I can see my business going well. But we're not saying that, far from it, because we're picking up the book. When is it over? Which one's the quickest minyan? There's a minyan there for 5 minutes. There's another minyan 7 minutes. So you're losing the whole art. You're losing the heart. So her whole book, prayer and meditation.
It's a difference. It's a huge difference.
Correct. No, I'm just saying.
Right.
But if you take a book like this today, people just don't apply it. So this book, what she does is she walks through meditations. And she really, where you stop, you think about what you say, and the more you repeat something, even in a certain sectors, they repeat mantras over and over, and that's how they get to these deep states. She has tremendous meditations in this book. And you could just study on one meditation. One of the meditations I say every day is Mahayenu. Who am I? What am I? So whenever I get to a situation that appears that I'm not understanding, I go back to the meditation of Ma. Ma means, what do I know? It could be a blessing in disguise. So I'm careful not to label it. So I practice every single day. What do I know? So when I practice what do I know, when things come, what do I say? What do I know? Could be a blessing. But we're so quick to say, this is bad, this is good, this is bad, this is good, this is bad. And you see people today walking in bad moods because they come with labels from their moods or their what happened to them yesterday, and they're just labeling things. And usually, blessings are coming from hastara. It's coming from behind the scenes. And I recognize that the only way I was able to do that is by repeating, what do I know? Marriage, what do I know? Am I in charge of my marriage? I can do as much as I can, but I'm not responsible for success. And I think that, pick one of these meditations she has in there. It could be Modani, it could be other ones, and just say that 1,000 times. So you program yourself to automatically respond instead of react. And that's one of the things that I saw in here that was really, really nice when I read this book, and I strongly recommend it.
Do you know that today research is showing, just like even saying a moment of, kind of silence and thinking about gratitude. They did a study. They had a band with the word gratitude on it, and they asked the people to put the band on the other hand and just think for a few seconds, like, what are you grateful for? After 40 days, the research showed that their cortisol level, their stress hormone went really down, their happy chemicals went up, and that was just like a few seconds of thinking grateful thoughts. Right. And then they interviewed them. They were really way happier.
Right.
So Hashem knows. He told us exactly how to start our day. I tell people, like, you're about to go to an architect and build a $20 million, mansion, and with I don't know how many floors, and then you ask the person, can you just build it but with Play-Doh? I don't want to spend the money on the foundation.
Right.
Your day, you're building your day. A few moments, visualizing a happy you, a grateful you, seeing you succeeding with the kids or not as easily argumentative, is going to build the structure of your whole day, from your brain and for your soul.
Yes. I saw you came out with this new type of therapy called CBTT,
Yes.
which is Cognitive Behavior Torah Therapy. So what CBTT means is basically she took the CBT model, which CBT therapy is basically that your thoughts determine your feelings, and your feelings determine your emotions, etc. But she added an extra T to it, which is I really loved, which is basically added the Torah concept. It's not, because what happens is if you're dealing with clients and you tell them, okay, think positive about this, change your thoughts. But for example, let's say I'm going through a struggle in my marriage, and I can have, okay, she didn't say that, I'm not going to take it personal. I can continue fighting the negative thoughts and trying to change my thoughts and feelings, but only if I say, you know what, if I didn't go through this situation, I would never become closer to God. So the Torah aspect is very similar to Viktor Frankl's work of logotherapy. You have to find some kind of meaning in that whole situation, because it's very tough to just go from positive thought to negative thought, good feeling to bad feeling. I have to get the big picture, which means this situation happened to me to get closer to my Creator, or my Creator created a lack. So that's where the Torah takes it to the next level. That after an addiction, a person could say, if it wasn't for this addiction, I would never become spiritual today, instead of just battling the 12 steps or just battling basic therapy. The Torah aspect gets you to the next level and gives you meaning, gives you purpose, instead of just dealing with positive and negative thoughts, which I really loved. If you want to talk a little bit about how you came up with that, etc.
I was noticing a lot of people who were doing all kinds of therapies weren't really getting the proper full analysis of their problem. I like this sentence, a half-baked understanding is a half-baked solution. So they could be focusing on one aspect, the mind, but they might not be dealing with the diet, the nutrition, or they might not be dealing with the spiritual factor, or they might not be dealing with their sleep factor. There's so many components to a person's well-being, and when you learn the Torah, we learn about every aspect of the being to be the perfect solution to being able to live in your own skin and being able to be really comfortable with yourself. A big issue these days is that people are not loving themselves. I was just at a retreat. My daughter is a director of Friendship Circle in Long Island, but they had a Miami marathon here, and I was here. That's why I was here. And so the theme was, friendship is not a luxury. It's a necessity. And the whole time I was thinking, that's genius. That's so right on. Because research is showing that if you're alone and you're not with people, you become more sick. But I was thinking, you know what? We need to be our own friends. How many people can't tolerate themselves? How many people have an inner avenger making them feel less than? How many people have that Yetzer Hara that they constantly are comparing themselves with others, and even to a point where they don't feel like living? So a big key factor is helping the person love themselves. So that you can even love others. So if they're not, let's say, going to tackle that in a therapy situation, and they're just going to focus on one and not the whole, possible range of reasons why they're suffering, then they're going to get a half-baked solution.
Right.
And they won't get to that optimal level of healing.
Obviously, there's countless of people that we deal with that are suffering daily, and whether it's on the WhatsApp group or in my rehab center. So I study a lot that concept, suffering. And one of the things I realized is a person may give up on God, but God's not giving up on the person.
Beautiful.
That means what's happening is basically your higher soul has to get you somewhere in life. It's got to get you to a certain place in life. And what happens is your higher soul never gives up on you. But what happens is if the lower soul is not getting that message. So the frustration that people go through, and I'm going to talk about this next Wednesday, is they get frustrated because the same things are happening over and over again. They keep on the same relationships, get broke again. The same thing gets the same pattern of failure. What happens is because you're not changing something. That means you're going to get the same lesson in life until you pass it. It's actually a favor, believe it or not. It looks terrible, but you have to recognize your mazal is doing it for you. It's creating a situation where you have so much pain that you have to shift. Because if you don't shift, then you can never get to that mission in life. So that's why so many people today have a midlife crisis. It's actually the biggest blessing in the world. Because your midlife crisis completely makes you abandon the old self and it gets you to the new self. But if you don't recognize that you have a guardian angel doing this to you, and Hashem's purposely creating, and the more you want to shorten your responsibility, the more Hashem's going to create a bigger responsibility. So it's either you have the road ahead of you, and I think I had a great quote, don't pray for an easier life, pray for strength in this very difficult life. And that's the mindset that I think we have to have, is there's a guardian angel that no matter what you want to do, you're going to get the same lesson in life to force you to change because Hashem is great, and He wants you to be great. And if you act small with a great soul, you're going to suffer. And that's where that whole disconnection is, where people get frustrated, they keep on making mistakes, so they take it personal, instead of seeing the big picture of, I need to change something fast.
You remember we were talking about like a first problem and then a secondary problem?
Right.
So the first problem is a person is like in a situation and they are just suffering depression, or they're really suffering anxiety. But then they begin to suffer depression that they're depressed. Or they're anxious that they're anxious, and they almost end up tying themselves off, and it becomes like a frozen energy because it just builds on each other and the person can't even breathe out of it. So one of the main messages I try to give people is to help them be at peace with the process, to help them normalize the things that they're going through so that they can stop the second problem from developing. Because if a person is not at peace with the process, then they get that second problem. Imagine if I tell you, here, 10 feathers, lift those feathers up. And you're like, what? Yeah, it's going to make you strong. No, those feathers are not going to make you strong. This problem you have is going to make you strong if you have the right mindset about it. But if you're going to have anxiety, then it won't make you strong. It'll bury you alive, God forbid. Right. So it's really, really important to nip in the bud this problem. And how does one do that? If our mind is like an incredible place that either we let in positivity or we fight hard to get the negative out. It's imagine like a terrorist wants to hijack your mind. It's like that's what it wants to do. That's what the Yetzer Hara is trying to do. But the more you strengthen your mind with these positive mindsets, the more your brain has the strength to rid itself and not let these types of thoughts come in. But how do you do that? When your godly soul is out of its imprisonment.
Right, awareness.
So when you pray, you're opening the door for your godly soul to come out. Right. Where is the godly soul mostly? In your head. So the more you take the step-by-step process according to God's help, the Torah, the more your godly soul, your moichin de gadlos, as they say, becomes alive. Then your mind becomes stronger, and then it could say, this is not a kosher thought. This is not healthy thought. I don't want it. But if your godly soul is in a slumber state, then it's imprisoned. Then your Yetzer Hara has full control over your mind. And the mind becomes enslaved with the anxiety, the sadness.
Right. Some of the things that I spoke about that we keep on is, I think the world today is always, they need a lot of logic. If God does a miracle for me, I'll believe him. You hear that a lot. If he gives a miracle for him, I'm all in. But the whole thing with secular knowledge, why some of it does not really work, is because there's times where Hashem wants you to just jump in. And it has to be, when I tell you, have a munah, you're going to tell me, I don't want to have a munah. I tried already. I'm burnt out. But if I tell you, jump into a munah, you're just jumping. You're jumping. You're not thinking. You're just jumping to a place where there's no logic behind it. Or if I tell you, you know what, jump into gratitude. Just jump there. Close your eyes and be grateful. It's a whole different thing than, well, what do I have to be grateful for? And the rational mind is what's killing. The rational mind is what kills. It's killing the joy today. Because people are just afraid to jump in. And that's the Torah's message. It tells us when Nachshon wanted to split the sea, jump in. Who says it's going to split? When you show me, I think today is, when you show me the first move, I'll make a move upstairs for you. But do not expect the move upstairs to be without the first move downstairs. So I gave a class last week on self-sacrifice. That is the biggest reward in life, when you have a self-sacrifice. And that usually happens. But it's not going to just happen by itself. You have to make a self-sacrifice. And that's from Nachman's message. He's telling you have to make a self-sacrifice. Could be praying. It could be giving charity when you don't have it. It could be, giving. Next thing you know, helping somebody when you're in the worst mood ever. It's funny how somebody always comes to us when we're in the worst mood for asking for help. Because what happens is your Creator knows that at that time, you need compassion. So you know what he does? He sends you somebody, and I always ask myself, why do I get people to ask me questions or ask me for money when I'm in the worst moods? It's like I don't even want to pick up the phone. But it's happening, and I said, why is it always happening at the same time? Let it happen when I'm in a good mood. I'll give more. I don't need it when I'm in a good mood, the compassion, because my mind is thinking right. It's when I'm not in a good mood. It's because I'm thinking about something I shouldn't be thinking about. So God's sending me compassion. He sends me somebody that I have to break myself and think about somebody else. And then what happens is, because I need mercy, I'm showing him mercy, then heaven has to reciprocate with me mercy. And it always happens to me. And I'm saying, here we go. I'm in a bad mood. Let's go. Somebody's going to come to me asking me for help. So if you start seeing how close God is to you, he hits you when there's a concealment. He hits you when you're in the worst time. He brings you that possible shidduch when you just broke up with the other one, you don't want to hear from anybody. That's the time where you have to think greater than you feel. And that's what I see the self-sacrifice is, overcoming the emotions and doing what's right instead of doing what feels right.
Absolutely.
I think that's what I've seen so much of success is I don't have to feel right all the time. And I think people need to understand that. You do not have to feel good all the time. You do not have to feel good all the time. It's more important, because when you start doing, you're going to feel better. But if you're always waiting on feeling good to do better, you're going to wait a long time. You're going to wait to Trump's son gets elected for president. So that's another thing I wanted to express to people, that sometimes it's just too much feelings involved. The feelings are getting involved in success. All the time, feelings. That's the time when you don't feel right. That's the time where you have to really double your efforts. Because that's the time you need it more than other things. Talk a little bit about marriage. I'm learning on this one also. Talk about some give me typical. typical cases that you've seen. I know you've given many cases here. I think your book is 400 pages. Basically, the wife is always right? I see the pattern there. But talk about some of the Rebbe's advice that people came to them with marriage situations, especially if you're about to get married. This is honest. This and the Rabbi Rush has a book on Shalom Bayit. This and that, it's a must for anybody before they even sign anything. Because if you don't come in with the right mindset, especially the first year of marriage, marriage is not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing. Talk about some of the cases that you've seen. What's working, what's not working.
I could say in a sentence, 2 animal souls not getting along.
Right. Wow, beautiful.
We all have animal souls. We all have Yetzaharas.
Beautiful.
So the key is to realize that. Up in Shemayim, we were so one. And a woman is up there seeing her husband come back down again, and she's like, no, I'm coming again.
Wow.
It takes a miracle, and they find each other. And then before the marriage, they're seeing each other's highest soul. Meaning, there's like this highest dimension of their soul called the Yechida and the Chaya of the Neshama. It's like the transcendent soul that we don't really access on this planet Earth. Before we're married, we access it. After we get married, bye-bye. So that's why you fell in love. Because you got like the Baal Shem Tov's glasses on, and you're seeing their
Beautiful.
soul on fire. And you just can't live without them. You left Gan Eden to come back. So, now you get married, and now you're both on the lower level soul interacting with each other. And like, he didn't trick you and pretended to be nice. She didn't trick you and didn't show what a slob she was or what she was or wasn't. God tricked them in a sense because he gave them the higher soul powers to see the good in the other. Marriage comes, it leaves. So what do we have to do in this lifetime? We have to get that back. And basically, in one letter, one word, you have to shut up. You have to just shut up. And realize that the more I am humble, the more I work on refining myself, the more I bring the Shekhinah into the home, the more my godly essence that I had before I was married will come back. And then the more I will see the good in the other again. So it's not, I made a mistake, how did I not see that, I deserve better, they warned me, whatever. No. It's God's design that they have to work together to bring God more into their life so then they can see again the good in each other. There's a pasuk, Matzah Isha, Matzah Tov. Why twice? Because the first time Hashem helps you see the good in the other, but then he takes it away. Now you have to work on refining yourself so that you again can see the good in the other. And then it's you that did it and not God. And he wants us to experience the pleasure. The pleasure of accomplishing this unity. If we got a freebie bread of shame unity, he did it. Big deal. We love each other. And if you look at the word Shalom Bayis, peace, it's a mitzvah. That means God's going to create a situation that's going to be havoc and the opposite of heaven. So he purposely designs marriage that it's going to be difficult so that you will have a chance to make peace. But if it was peaceful,
what's the chance?
Then you didn't work on making peace. So it's a mitzvah. Oh, I don't have a mezuzah, so it's a mitzvah. I have to get the mezuzah. So people think automatically, I love him, she loves me, why aren't we having peace? Because it's a mitzvah. We have to work on getting peace. And when the Shekhinah comes into the home, this is what happens. In the Gemara it says, another name for Shekhinah is Esh Ochelet Esh, which means a fire, a holy fire, that will eat up the unholy fire. So you don't have to work so hard to fix your marriage. You just have to work on fixing yourself, inviting the Shekhinah in the home. And the Shekhinah will help elevate your husband.
Nice.
The Shekhinah will eat up the unholy fire of what's going on with your children or those in-laws, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is, the Shekhinah being invited into your home does the dirty work. You know how many times they think if they say it this way, and if they put their, because modern psychology and all these things, you're codependent, you have to stand up for your rights, you shouldn't be treated that way. And the aggressiveness and the fire, the unholy fire fighting in front of the children.
Right.
So invite the Shekhinah to your home. And I'm telling you, if you read the client testimonials, I never saw the men. And these men were pretty darn difficult and challenging. And just working with one of the couples to bring the Shekhinah in the home, the other person was changing miraculously.
There's 3 rings: engagement ring, wedding ring, and the suffering, obviously.
Oh my gosh.
So, Rabbi Rush was over my house, and many people came to him with Shalom Bayit problems. And, he basically gave everybody the same prescription. Go do his bodedut. Go change yourself. I mean, he rarely spoke, and I witnessed, rarely spoke. Tell her what to do, or give comments to her. Rarely spoke saying, go deal with the other person. He always focused on the person. So what do you think the main role for a man is, and his weakness, and the main role for a woman and her weakness? That obviously there's always usually that, I see as I've been doing this for 4 or 5 years, I see one of the biggest killers in marriage is resentment, frozen anger, not letting go, like, Frozen the movie, let it go.
Yes.
Keep on playing that same, word, you called me this, you called me this, you called me this. That one comment that got you in, 5 trials for manslaughter.
Are you really ready for this?
But it's what I've seen. Resentment is huge, but what do you see?
This is what we do.
Yeah, what do you see?
We cut the unhealthy ties of neediness. People are too needy of the other to make them feel good about themselves.
Nice.
It's not healthy. Oh, if he would do that. If he did. Oh, he didn't? He doesn't love me. No. This story goes back from Adam and Chava. Let me go back there in time. Adam was alone. Hashem said, not good to be alone. I'm going to make you a wife. He makes her a wife, so he'll feel needed. But he's going through a lot of psychic energy of feeling like a nobody. So he closes the door. Bye-bye. Doesn't pay attention to his wife. So much so that he does not tell her the law about the tree. Because he's behind closed door with his computer, I don't know what else, the iPhone.
Apple. He had an Apple phone.
We didn't get paid to say that. Okay, so then she's all upset, broken, feeling he doesn't love me. I feel like a nothing. And now what? Oh, the snake is talking to me. Oh, someone's paying attention to me. Oh, the apple. Well, maybe the Gucci bag will make you happy. Maybe if I buy this, maybe if I delve into that gorgeous dress. So the addictions of things to make her happy. And she's ignoring him now because she has the snake and the apple. So he feels like he's completely and so he gets more upset that he's a nobody, and it's a vicious cycle.
We got into depression for 130 years.
Yep. So we have to take the scissors. Yep. I'm not here on this earth to get you to approve of me and make me feel like I'm a somebody. I'm here because I came down to help and be a cheerleader.
But you can't say don't be so needy either. You can't say don't be so needy.
Well,
you have to get the person has to take the action.
You have to do it in your own way,
right.
like a kind of a detox of your neediness,
right.
And realize I'm not here. I had everything in Gan Eden. I didn't come here to have someone respect me and make me feel like a somebody. I'm here so that the other will be able to fulfill their mission of being kind, decent, respectful, and humble. Not because I need you to love me. That's not why I'm here. That's not why we're married. We're here to help each other grow. Now, the woman has what's called the Hay in her name, which is she has 5 great mental, intellectual faculties, and it's built and it's strong, and that's the Hay in Isha. And then there's the Ish that has the Yud in his name, and that shows that he has 10 faculties of wisdom. The way gets juicy here. He has 10, but it's all puny. It's not developed. The woman has 5, they're developed, but she's missing the 5. So they need each other to become complete. So she has Emuna Shlema, Esh. She has the fire of Emuna Shlema, Ish, and Isha has Esh in it. He has Or Sichli, but he's lacking Bina. He's lacking actualization of knowledge. Just like a woman can
He's lacking feelings, you're saying. You're saying
yeah, he doesn't know how to really matriculate and bring to fruition his kochos, his understanding of
like
his knowledge.
If you say to a woman, how you doing? I'm fine. She's not really fine. Like he's thinking, okay, you said you're fine. Everyone must be fine. But she's saying I'm fine doesn't really mean I'm fine.
Right. You know,
so we have to like sort of interpret the code to get the code to understand what she's really feeling. I think that's what we're more practical, logical.
Right.
So they want us to understand every feeling.
So they have different energies. They are from Mars and Venus. Genius, whoever wrote it. I didn't read it yet. I have to soon. But like they are different. She has the capacity, like her stomach has the capacity to bring out the seed of her man. She has the capacity to build him up with her love, with her cheerleader energy, with her emuna in him, that he's gonna get to that place. But typically she takes personally that he doesn't respect her, and then typically she barricades herself or is aggressively demanding her share of time, and then she's bitter and sad. And then the melding of the two doesn't happen. It becomes a fire that burns rather than a fire that melts. Because when there's respect and love between the two of them, when the Shekhinah, which is a fire, it melds the two neshamas. So she gets what she doesn't have, and he gets what she doesn't have. But if they're arguing and fighting, then they just go deeper.
Right. But you always get the case of my husband doesn't listen to it. I'm getting better from it. It's always that case where the one person's trying and the other person doesn't want to hear it, and that's where that's where the person really says, well, what can I really do anymore? How much can I do to get that? And that's what you said, that if a person works on himself,
right,
which you have to take a major leap of faith to even
But then there's another level, and that's getting rid of the toxicity in your head against them.
Right.
There's a lot of people will give the food. But inside, I can't believe it. I can't. And there's so much festering of toxicity and negativity that their soul is feeling your negative energy. So they're just like, they can't. He can't unite with you because you're so looking down at him. You're so judging him. You're so upset. So I say, switch it to compassion. Switch it to like if you see a stuck puppy under a car, you don't get angry that it's stuck. Right. Yeah, okay, so, he's stuck. He's maybe not getting the spiritual nutrition that he needs. I thank God I'm not a man every day. Like the stress men have to go through just to put the bill on the table. So compassion.
Can you say that again?
I
just Right, that was a joke. Okay. Right. But what advice would you give to singles today? I mean, I have my own advice, obviously, for them. But what advice do you see from the Rebbe's work on people finding their soulmates? It's very difficult today because it's an instant gratification. What can you do for me? I have singles that ask me, "Give me a guy that does this, this, this." So I said, "Oh, you just want to bring a toothbrush to a marriage, right? That's what you want me to set you up with?
Oh my God.
So a lot of them are just coming with toothbrushes and want, the beautiful everything. Explain to what is really, what's the best solution today that you've seen on finding a soulmate?
Well, definitely, I believe the older you get, the more wise you get, the more you don't want to do it. Because the more you see the truth of reality.
Right.
When you're kind of 20 and like a bimbo, and
Right.
you're like, you're all over the place, that's good to get married because you don't see the truth of personalities. So I really believe get
Millennials are
married
good.
young because you
Millennial
get
marriage.
wiser, you see how difficult people can be, you've been
You're
hurt.
less likely to change. You're less likely to change.
And I think that's healthy. And people say, no, they should grow. But then they're 24 and then they're 25. And then the people are smarter and they see the reality of the challenges. And then they get more scared. And then they hear all the divorces and what happened to their yacht and their this and she stole everything. I don't know, all these things. And they just like don't want to, they freeze. So the first advice, get married when you're not so smart.
Right. But obviously, I like that answer. When you're humble and simple, basically.
Yeah.
I never thought of that way.
It's all going to be the same.
Right.
It's all going to be the same.
I got married the second time very quickly because I knew it was a challenge. Either way, there's a challenge.
It's a challenge.
There's no, this is the price is right.
Yes.
If I pick this box, I'll be happy. If I pick that box, I'm going to be miserable. I already knew it's either a ground war, a navy. I knew there was a learning curve. There's not such thing as God giving you somebody that's going to make you're not marrying a chauffeur, you're not marrying a concierge, you're marrying somebody against you to help you. So that's why I said, there's no such thing, and thank God my wife has absolutely done that. She's been tremendously in my growth, and she's.
I met her
thank
today.
Thank her
I
every
love
single
her.
day for her. Thank
You're
her every single
blessed.
day. I am.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Such a neshama.
So just that people just really giving in. It just seems to be very hard today. Or what are my friends going to think? Or today you see a lot of people not wanting to get married because financial. But I always tell people the money comes after the marriage.
Yes.
So it's really today's generation is nobody wants to jump in and just trust in God. Because most of the blessings that I've gotten, most people that I know, once they get married, the bracha comes on the account of his wife. Well, he's not doing well enough. Well, if he gets married and you become the right coach, he'll do well enough. But nobody wants to take that leap of faith. And sometimes you have to do it. You have to take the leap of faith. In Jerusalem, they don't have this problem. They're getting married easily. There's 1,000 weddings a day over there. It's an America problem, usually. It's Jerusalem, they go in, 21, 20, they get married, well, who's going to pay? Well, we'll figure it out afterwards. Here, they're doing the audits, they're doing the 7-year audits, 6-year tax returns, before they get married.
Someone just asked me to do that, and I don't want to do that.
Right.
I can't.
It's just too much
so
complication,
difficult,
too much sechel before them. I think so. The key is really simplicity and be a good enoughness instead of a perfectionist. Would you say that's a good enoughness?
Yeah. I'm okay that I'm not okay. And he's okay that he's not okay.
Right.
Hashem perfectly designed me imperfect.
Right.
I'm going to be a co-creator in creating a masterpiece called me. And he's going to have his journeys to be a co-creator, to bring out his masterpiece.
Right.
Only angels are 100% okay.
Right. So we're just making things too hard for no reason.
And
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but people's weaknesses are their greatest strengths.
Talk
There was
about that in addiction today.
Yes.
You said this is a beautiful line what you said. How you talk about people in recovery in addiction.
Right.
Talk about
yeah,
that. It's a beautiful
like,
concept.
It really is like people who are very, very sensitive.
Beautiful.
Very sensitive. They're special souls. They've been gifted with such a ability to feel pain, to be empathic. And the whole world will look at them and say, you're a crybaby, or you're just too sensitive. Toughen up. Stop crying. From a very young age. Getting so labeled and so... they're so bereft of the feeling of being enough. But it's really the opposite. It's the other people that maybe should learn more from the more sensitive people. And so these sensitive people are so pained by life more than the average person, they can't handle it. It's like it's a psychological dissonance that they're experiencing, that they want to escape this painful feeling, but it's a holy feeling of Mashiach now. Like, I can't stand the suffering anymore. Other people who are born with more rational mind, it doesn't bother them, but they'll use their brain to do their mission on earth, and so we need all of those kinds. They'll do that type of work, and the more empathic type of person will do that kind of work. But what happens? They don't feel good in their own skin. They don't feel good about themselves being that way, because the world is telling them you're escaping because you're such a wimp that you can't handle life. No. So when they realize that they can channel that special holy gift that they've been given, with a passion to help people, for a passion to make a difference in the world. And it all starts with understanding that they are gifted with, let's say, a fiery temperament type of soul that is very passionate.
So it's a blessing in disguise.
It's a blessing in disguise. And then once they use it, they're the ones that are going to super succeed. So let's say a marriage couple come to me and says, he is so angry. I go, you have a holy husband. He has so much fire. Oh, like Yitzchak Avinu had so much fire. But my husband's an addict. I go, but he has so much pleasure-seeking personality. He'll be like Avram Avinu, because Avram had a lot of chesed, a lot of water element. He did kindness. Once it'll be channeled, he'll reach greater heights than the average person. So I help them put on the Baal Shem Tov glasses to see that their weakness is something that is so holy, and that just have to channel it.
Right.
Instead of, I don't deserve this. He's such a lowlife. That's so disgusting. I don't want to go on.
No, sure. It's very common. I get this.
Very common.
Wow, it's an unbelievable mindset. Because you see, obviously the people that we have many employees in recovery, they're 10 times better people than regular people. By the way,
they are
more understanding, more friendly, less likely to get upset if the cup of the coffee is spilled the wrong way. They're not yelling at the lady because her venti cappuccino didn't have enough splendas. They're accepting imperfection. They can handle imperfection. They're more patient. It's such a beauty to see when they make the turnaround. But yet sometimes they don't make the turnaround if they don't have the faith aspect of it. They don't see that. That's where the scary part of it is. You're almost dealing with it's all or nothing kind of thing. Either they become the best possibility, or God forbid they don't make it.
And then they get married thinking they made a mistake, and it's God's plan.
So you really need both people on the same plan. You need both people on the same channel.
But even if just one is doing the work and working to be humble and respectful, I've seen the miracles.
That's what Rabbi Nachman advises. That you bittul yourself, and then when you bittul yourself to God, that person will bittul yourself to you. And this is Rabbi Nachman really talks about that concept. The more you nullify yourself to God's will, the more you do His will, the more that person will do your will.
So let me talk about this faculty of imagination that messes things up in the marriage.
Sure.
You see, we're born with a gift called the faculty of imagination. Faculty of imagination helps us make association between one thing and not. So, for instance, genius, Benjamin Franklin, who did the light bulb, he had a lot of imagination to think this and put that. Well, voila, a light. So the imagination is a gift to help us become creators, but it also is a gift to help us connect to God. We need our imagination to think of God, to think of the learning Torah, prayers, and if we harness it and actualize it, then it doesn't take control over us. If we're not developing it, then the faculty of imagination will make associations with things that are not associated. And so in marriage, it's like they're making association. He just did this. Oh, he doesn't love me, or he's
right.
So the mind and the imagination starts to like
Right.
rule in a not good way. And in Breslov, they actually teach something of this. The
It's called the Koach HaMadamim.
Yeah.
Right. The people put it so. Like I had a case where I keep on laughing at it every day. The guy says, "What do you do if my wife's putting me down? She's always calling me lazy." So, okay, I always like the people. Okay, I know or he's a narcissist, or that's a narcissist. They always give what happened? Just give me the details. Well, I didn't put the toilet seat down, so she says I'm lazy. I said, did she tell you? She just said put the toilet seat down. Did she call you lazy? No. But if she told me to put the toilet seat down, she must think I'm lazy.
Exactly, that's the point.
I said, what are you talking about? She just told you to put the toilet seat. Why do you think you're lazy? Because that's the way he felt about himself. It's such stupidity. And next thing you know, the laziness, you see I'm lazy here, and next thing you know, a little toilet seat could break a marriage. That's the ridiculous that I've seen, where you don't bring the imagination to tachlis.
And that's the
Total the toilet's going to ruin your marriage.
And that's the beginning of psychosis, paranoia, and all kinds of serious
I've
mental
seen this all the
disorder.
time. I've seen the stupidest things. People major in minor things. The stupidest things. I like to get to the details. And or my husband's he calls me this, he calls me that. What did he do? He told me this way. One time, you're a prosecutor. It's just too much imagination. You have to bring it down to topics.
And I imagine you heard this. Trust me, I know.
I know.
Trust me, I know.
Yeah.
I'm like, you are not in his head. How do you know? You're not God. No, but I know. It's the imagination going wild.
That's one thing you have to not taking things personal or not feeling that way. Beautiful. Any questions from the audience?
Wow,
that
great audience.
Any questions?
You're still
that we
here.
have? Any topics that we didn't talk about?
Yeah.
Please.
Originally you talked about diagnosis about what we do with today's generation of single people. What if we weren't young and dumb and got married then? So what happens now?
Right.
That's
Great.
a good one.
So his question is, what do you do when you're not young and dumb and you still want to get married?
That's a new title of a book.
Good title.
Yeah. First of all, the more, again, your godly soul is more free, then the more you can jump with emunah and bitachon into things. So if your godly soul is in slumber and the animal soul is kind of more on top of your mind and your mindsets, then it could freeze you and it could cause fear and panic and anxiety, and then you won't be able to jump into things. So there's a pasuk that says, I am constantly with you, Hashem, because I'm like a beast. And that pasuk teaches us that there's one level of being like a beast where we're not using our mind. So like we're young and dumb and we get married, right? And something like that. And then there's, I'm constantly with you, Hashem, because I'm like a beast. I go above my mind. I jump into emunah and bitachon.
Right.
And so that frees you. You're almost like the animal, but in a good way, because you're willing to let go of your rational thinking and dive into something that doesn't make sense to you.
Like
so you're
getting married with 2 kids.
Yes.
You hear this all the time.
Right.
I would have never thought that this was what God wanted for me, to marry a guy with 2 kids. Or the girl has, so what? You can give more. The fact that you're getting, and this is a very common thing. I would have never thought that God would have put me with this. I don't know what to do. So now you can give more. I was married. I had 2 kids, and with my wife, she was 23 at the time. She didn't plan on this. It ended up becoming a blessing. So sometimes you have a certain script in your life. When you have a certain story and life doesn't match that story, you have to change the story. And be open-minded. What I say is be open-minded.
Go beyond.
One of the tools, be open-minded. Be open to anything. If the midot are good, if it's good enough. And also, number one thing that I've seen that's killing relationships is people are test driving the car too much before they drive the car.
Oh, yes.
So what happens if you test drive the car for 30 days? Okay, you want to buy it now?
Excellent. Exactly.
Let me try another car. So in a good, don't get too physical before spiritual, because you're connecting to dopamine, not connecting to your soul. And I think that's one of the very important. Starve your distractions, feed your focus. Delayed gratification. Because if you get too physical, what's going to happen you're going to get cloudy and you're going to get cloudy vision. And then when the right zivug comes, you know, I just test drive the car for 30 days. Let me try another car.
It reminds me of the Parsha of Man. And it's really applied to marriage, I think.
Yeah, don't test drive the car too much. It's
You know,
not a good idea, because you'll never be happy with it.
do you remember that when the Jewish people were in the desert and they were supposed to get everyone man from Shemaim? So the sages teaches that tzaddikim got it at their door or on their table.
Right.
The people that were like intermediary got it like, you know, in the middle of the city, and the people that were really not tzaddikim, like
they stroll around
yeah,
for
they
it.
had to go all over. The fact is that they all got it at their table, but when the tzaddik got it, oh, Hashem gave me this, thank you. The intermediary says, maybe I can get something better, way better. So they look and they look and they look and they look and they see it's kind of all the same. So they gave up, and then they end up getting the same thing. But the one that was very not interested in not settling and just going and seeing it's better and better and better, better. They went everywhere in every part of the city. Finally, they realized it was all the same. So I know each one has their own soulmate. I'm not saying that you just settle, but there's some truth of just, you know, is it because I'm keep trying to find something better and better and better, and then it's like 10 years later and you're not married, God forbid, or, you know? So, like, being a little, this applies to everything, but also in love and relationships.
I've seen many, I mean, I've read in the Zohar, I believe the Zohar says that even if you do get married to a person who's not your soulmate, if you work it out and you guys work well together, eventually she gets a piggyback of your soulmate.
Yes.
So she becomes the one. Even if you're not married to the one, she becomes the one. So it's never too late for that. Second, Rav Nachman says you can exchange your soulmate through prayer. So through prayer, you want an upgrade your prayer. So it's not hopeless. You have to stop swiping and start begging. The more you swipe, the more you look for the one, that's like you find. The more you become the one, the more you'll attract. It's an attraction thing. It's not a looking thing. It's an attraction, like trust. Trust attracts what you want. So the more you focus on becoming the one, you'll attract opportunities and the right people in your life, instead of just looking. Become it, you'll attract it. And then once you recognize, then you know that's really the formula that I've seen.
There was a sentence, I went and did a Shabbaton somewhere, and the rabbi, I forgot his name, but it was so like perfectly said, I hope I can say it. He said, don't marry the right one, make your marriage right.
Same
exactly.
concept. Become the one. Become the one. This way you'll attract the one. That's what the Zohar says, that Rav Nachman says in lesson 87, that a man's major test is his sexual energy. So if he's able to conquer that, he'll be able to attract the soulmate. So it's either you're attracting your soulmate or you're pushing her away. You know, it's either the Uber's coming or the Uber found another driver. So we have to attract the one, not, and that's obviously through spiritual. You know, I mean, many people they are in relationships, they break up. Next thing you know, they do I created a 40-day challenge, which is tikkun haklali, mikvah, spiritual purification, and then all of a sudden that girl, you know what? Let's date again. Mm-hmm. So you see crazy things of people coming back to the person. I see it 1,000 times. I see it. So this is really the only formula we have. So B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to talk a little bit more about that Wednesday in New York. And it's very hard, again, because if you read 1,000 relationship books, you're going to end up from here to here to here to here to here. But read the Zohar. Read the Zohar. The Zohar is black and white. Read Rav Nachman. 250 years, guaranteed. It's guaranteed. All right? Okay, so that's today's class, guys. Thank you for coming. If anybody would like to stay and speak to her, obviously you're more than welcome to.
Thank you.
And buy her books.
Thank you for joining.
Where?
Thank you.
Huh?
Thank you.
Huh? Where do you buy the books? Amazon.
Amazon.
Stock price $2,100.